Kate Ciulla, Director of World Languages for the Scituate Public Schools, which in this district covers grades 7 through 12. You know, obviously I'm passionate about kids learning a second language, a third language, whatever it might be. Especially this day and age, what's promising is that there's so much talk of preparing our students to be active members of a global society. And if you're going to be an active member of a global society, you need to be equipped with language skills. There's so much focus on achievement. Did they get the A? Did they get the B? But guess what? At the end of that, once they got the A, how many times can we turn around and ask the kid, do you remember how to do that? Can they use it out on the streets? If they took their family to Mexico, could they use what we've taught them in the classroom? Usually they learn it to take the test, and then, you know, a skillful teacher will recycle that information and pull it back and always be using it. But you know, part of the problem is we don't have baseline data, so it's really hard to track student growth. And we know that part of learning a language is repetition, and when we don't have them for 8 to 10 weeks over the summer, they're losing serious knowledge and skill in the world language area. So I suggested we develop some type of summer enrichment work, and the department totally was sold on that idea of making sure that students are still practicing their skills over the summer. And we decided to go about it in a very traditional way, and we developed packets, and we essentially took resources. Maybe it was worksheets that we had already used, or worksheets we had come up with, or we pulled from you know, textbook resources, and we developed packets that every kid got on the last day of school. We scanned it, put it on the website in case somebody lost theirs. We put extra ones in the office for kids that lost them, and we ran out halfway through the summer. And we expected the kids to thoughtfully go through those exercises and practice the material that they had learned throughout the year. And we ran into snag after snag. Kids lost their packets, didn't do them. But the most frustrating thing was kids didn't try, or they didn't have the resources that they needed to, you know, look up the information that we were asking them to give us back. They weren't invested, they weren't engaged in this. And then the biggest issue was we held them accountable for those. So teachers had to go through and grade packets that were based on a full year's curriculum. So there were 10 to 15 pages of material that these kids had sort of half done, and they spent hours grading kids on this stuff that the kids weren't trying hard at. So it was a complete loss on the students' time, loss on the teachers' time. And then I think you guys came by here, somebody knew the principal here, and mentioned Lingo Jingo. And when you talked about retention, I mean, one of the concerns was, oh my gosh, does this company think they can come in and replace high school programs and high school curriculums, and teachers will be just people sitting behind desks teaching world language? But when you spoke about retaining a language and refining skills and practicing skills, it immediately triggered our summer program. And I immediately thought this would be much more engaging. This is much more reflective of a 21st century activity where kids are on the internet, interacting. There's the visual supports for them. So it spoke to our program. It supported what we were trying to do, and I think it made it better. When they lose those 2 months of hearing the language, they arrive to us in the first month, we're like, oh my God, are we gonna have to give up the immersion philosophy? Because we look out and there is a black cloud over these kids' head that's like, what is this lady saying? Or what is this guy saying? So to reinforce that over the summer was huge. I had a lot of students comment on the visual piece as well, and said, I'm a huge visual learner, and those pictures, I can't forget those pictures. I had one kid trying to convince me he'd done the work this summer, and he's like, well, I remember the picture, the skyscraper, there was like one that looked like this. I'm like, oh my God. So just tapping into that visual piece in addition to the spoken piece of the language was huge for that. The other thing too we've got to talk about is the way that you prompted these kids to get this work done. Those weekly emails, parents, I heard from parents, thanks for the weekly emails, it really kept us. I've had a dad email me every day this week wondering what the result was, like what did the student get on the work she did all summer. So I have to, that was a huge piece, was that they were getting these weekly reminders, and you guys were pulling out the kids that hadn't logged on yet and giving them an additional reminder. So part of that is what Lingo Jingo can offer, that over the summer when we don't have contact with these kids, that's a challenge for us. We're very satisfied. Sometimes people come in with new programs to sell you new world language programs and things like that, and it's gonna be more work for us. You guys took it all on, and you collaborated with us. You took our advice on things. We asked you to change things. You changed them. So your customer service was unbelievable. I can't get that with the online tech series that we use. I don't get that with other technology programs that we use here. There was that piece. I'm more than satisfied with the number of kids that logged on, that were engaged, that had questions about it when they came back to school. I'd love to sit down with the teachers and talk about over time. It's difficult to draw conclusions after 1 year of data, but over time, are we seeing an increase in retention? Are we able to get through our review units a little bit quicker because they're having that practice over the summer? Anecdotally, teachers have said, yes, I'm able to get through the review material quicker and get into the new content with the students. You guys were awesome with the troubleshooting. I would think of these things in the middle of the night, like, oh, I wonder if they could tie our rubric to the grading that they're pulling and the data they're pulling, and then you'd have it done in 2 days. It was like whatever we needed, whatever ideas I had, you were already 2 steps ahead of us. So that we're totally satisfied with that. We would definitely do this again. And you've forced us to look at things from a different perspective, from a different lens. So we're having conversations about student data. We're having conversations about baseline data and student growth. We weren't having those conversations a lot before. We're having curriculum conversations. Should our Spanish 2 honors kids and Spanish 2 CP kids be doing different lessons? No. So this has forced us to look at things from a different lens and offered us some areas of improvement as well. So, I welcome any opportunity for us to grow and engage our students. So it's kind of like we're winning in both arenas. The kids are engaged and motivated, and we're able to look at ourselves in a different way as well. It is a wonderful resource for middle school kids. It's a wonderful resource for vocabulary learning. And I think the greatest benefit we saw was what it did for our kids over the summer.